Thank you. That was a very nice introduction. I'm not too good with these technical kinds of things, so I hope you can hear all right? Yes? Yes? Okay, good. And then I have to decide which pair of glasses to use because it no. Well, I want to thank the staff of Hudson Library and Historical Society for inviting me here, and I hope it's more the library and not because of history, you know, like the old people. No, it's really a pleasure. I'm not a stranger to this town. I spent several years as a teacher at the cooking school, now the Western Reserve School, but formerly the Zona Spray Cookery, and I taught there for quite a few years, and so I'm very familiar with this area, and it's nice to be back here, indeed. I'm going to talk a little bit about history, and I didn't have to read it; I was there. So and particularly this to talk about the history leading up to where we are today with food and farming, and I would say with not total prejudice that here in Ohio, particularly this northeastern part of Ohio, we are really one of the food centers in the United States today. Everyone thinks it happens on the West Coast. They just have better media, I think, that's all. And I think it's right here. You know, we have many kinds of soil. We have microclimates. We have the lake plain. We have the river valley. In flat country, if you want to go west, and down we have parts of Appalachia. We have the rolling hills of central Ohio. We can produce many kinds of food, and food of very, very, very high quality. And I think we are doing that today. And being associated with a Fresh Fork Market, I know that we are doing this today with our farmers markets and our restaurants and buying clubs and co-ops and things of this nature. We are really doing a great job, and there are many small-scale farmers who are finding that this makes their kind of work economically viable. And I think that's something to always keep in mind, that altruism is admirable, and yes, no question about it, but for something to succeed, it really must be economically viable, and that is something we need to focus on and make sure we are respecting that idea, that those who create the food, those who grow the food, and so forth, must be properly compensated. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my background and how this all came about. I won't tell the whole story because that would be decades. But anyway, I grew up on a farm, so in Trumbull County, actually. So I did eat locally, and I did eat seasonally without choice, out of necessity. That's what people did. That's what people had, and so that's what they cooked. And at the time, I was eager to get out into the world and do what I wanted to do. But interesting enough, it turns out that I have come full circle and realized the value of seasonal eating and local eating and these kinds of things. My interest in food was reawakened when I was a school teacher. And I had the good fortune of teaching for the United States government in foreign countries. There was a time when military bases were located all over the world. American military, and families would go there to live, and sometimes, usually about 3 years. So they established schools, and it was quite the job for a young person to get into this program, because you got to go live in a foreign country, and they took care of you, and you were well paid, and it was quite an opportunity. I spent 2 years out of the country, one in Southeast Asia, and then I got my first choice the second year, and I got to live in France because I had studied French in university. And it wasn't long until I realized that food and dining, the dinner table, was absolutely central to that culture and to the family and so forth. And I don't know if you have any interest in French films, but whenever you see a French film, if there's ever a scene in the home, or there will almost always be a meal, and somebody is ladling out the soup and so forth, and people are sitting around this table talking, and I think that is true even today. And so that was my introduction, and then I noticed that the menus changed in restaurants, and particularly as seasons changed. And that's illustrated very, very well in this little story. One day I was at school, and I noticed out the window in this meadow kind of area out there that there were a lot of women, and they were picking something. And I guessed that probably it was mushrooms, wasn't sure. But I asked a French lady who worked at our school what they were doing. I said, what are the ladies doing out there? And she says, oh, cherche la salade. They're looking for salad. I thought, whoa. Well, that night I happened to be at a restaurant in the town, and when the salad was served in a glass bowl, I said, wow, the greens are dark, dark green greens. And lo and behold, the salad was dandelion greens about this big, and they weren't quite so bitter as dandelion became. And so that was obviously, whoa, it's spring, it's time to get the dandelions, and that's what we're having for salad tonight. And I found that in so many cases, how the menus changed as the seasons changed. Also, the menus changed as you moved from place to place. That if you traveled a couple hundred miles, you would find a different style of cooking, because people were cooking what they have where they live. And once I lived in central France, once I was on my way to Bordeaux, and that evening I stopped to have dinner. And I noticed immediately the change, a lot more garlic and a lot more tomato in the food. And it's because I was getting close to Basque country, down near Bordeaux. So another example of regional and so forth. I don't think it's quite that way today. I haven't been there for about 7 years, but things have changed there as they have here. But if we look at our situation, all you have to do is think about perhaps being in an airport, and you could be blindfolded and left in an airport. You would have no idea where you were. You would see the same kinds of things in every single place, right? And regional food, no, doesn't exist. But we are seeing this wonderful renaissance. I think we are. And my entry into this was somewhat, you might say, accidental, almost a default. I returned from working at a restaurant in Paris in 1983, and I had the good fortune to be given a job at Sammy's Restaurant in the Flats in Cleveland, a restaurant that was probably about 20 years ahead of its time. And after a few months, I think we were doing a very good job in our kitchen, but I didn't think it was as good as it could be. And relying my own background growing up, I thought, I know we can produce good chickens in Ohio. I know we can have wonderful vine-ripened tomatoes. Why am I not getting that? Well, because I'm buying in the food service industry. So I set about changing that. And I went on Sundays, often I would drive in the country and find roadside stands and buy things and ask them if I could come back next week and buy 2 bushels or a large portion. I started to advertise in farm newspapers. I would like to buy pork. Would you grow pork for me? And these kinds of things. And it was very difficult, much more difficult than learning to cook, because this was an entirely new menu. You were trying to do something that had been lost, not by choice, but had been removed. The bridges were all broken, so there was no way to get from here to here, from the farm to the table. And most persons, like the county agricultural agents and so forth, simply were straightforward. They say, you can't do this. It is just absolutely insane. I don't know where you got this idea, but it doesn't work. We don't do that anymore. We're in a new age, okay? Well, I'm basically kind of stubborn, and so I said, I think I'll figure out some way. So I started to, and fast forward, others followed, and the next thing you know, there was this great interest in our local foods. But not everybody was pleased with this. Who was not pleased? Well, think of this story that is told by the well-known gardener and author, Eliot Coleman. And he says, when a new idea comes down the pike, the first reaction by the entrenched and the control folks is like, who are those crazy people? What are they doing? It'll never work. That's just foolish. But if it starts to catch on a little bit and a little bit more, and they get converts, those who don't want new ideas say, okay, somehow these crazy people are getting momentum. We have got to make sure we stop this. So what do? They have the money, they have the lobbyists, so they make rules and laws and codes in the state and county legislatures to make it nearly impossible for those people to participate. But if those people still won't give up and they still grow in number, the third step is what? All those people run around and jump on and say, oh, we'll do that too. We're doing that too. Yeah, we're with you. Because they would like to get a hold of it and see if they can't control it. But they haven't, and that's good. I think that's very good that they haven't been able to. So how is it, though, that even with all of this, we still are far, far, far away from changing our food system, and that refers to how we grow the food, and then how we move it, and then how we use the entire system. It's not an easy task. It's a Herculean job. Why? Well, who makes the rules? Do you and your children get to vote and decide what kind of food you have in your cafeteria? Do you get to make rules about who sells food in your farmer's market or in some program of the food distribution? No. Children don't have any lobbyists, and many of these small-scale farmers don't have any lobbyists, so they are still in this uphill battle against corporate agriculture, against large-scale agriculture. But maybe there is, just maybe there is, kind of sort of not a blessing in disguise, because it's pretty tragic, but sometimes within tragedy, we are awakened. There's an expression, and actually a really wonderful book called The Necessity of Ruins. And the author points out that we watch things deteriorate. We watch them physically and otherwise. We watch homes and neighborhoods going down. We watch institutions declining. And we shake our heads and say, oh, that's really terrible. But we don't do much about it. But when it finally hits the very bottom, absolutely rock bottom, then someone says, oh, it's terrible that we lost that. We should try to restore it. So now you can get people to come on board and want to restore because they've experienced ruin. So that is the necessity of ruins. When and how did this system come about, and when and how did it get so powerful that between 70 and 80% of all poultry in grocery stores is produced by, I think it's 3 or 4 companies. You know, that's a lot of control, isn't it? And that's why we read every month or so, or every week or so, 2 tons of ground something has been recalled. That's a lot. How did it start, when did it start, and how did it happen? Well, one of the greatest periods of transition in modern history, we won't go all the way back and talk about the invention of the printing press or something like that, but in our own late 20th century, early 21st century, and that would have been 1945. And 1945 was, of course, the end of the Second World War. How could this have such impact on how we produce food on farms and how we get food in our grocery stores and put on that onto our tables? Well, the war was won with great technology from the United States, the greatest country in the world. And when it was over, do you suppose those manufacturers and makers and producers wanted to say, well, that was nice, now we'll have to start a new business, because they don't need those products for the war anymore. They don't need the K rations, or they don't need the chemicals to spray or things like this. No, they were business people, and they said, we've got to find a new market. And so that technology went to two places: farming, agriculture, and food, both processing and delivery. So the farmer was told, you don't have to struggle and hoe all the corn and do all that sort of thing. You can buy this and you spray it all and there won't be any weeds. Good idea. You know, if you were a farmer, that sounded pretty good in 1947, I think. And to the food people, they said, you know, you can make this and you can store it in the warehouse for a year by processing it this way. Okay, so they did that. So all of that technology moved into those 2 areas. But once again, what does one need when he has a product? He needs a customer. So how did they find all these customers so quickly? In 1945, 75% of all beef was grass raised. By 1950, only 25% was being done that way. How did this happen so quickly? Well, good marketing was one, but they had a ready, willing audience. Who were these people? They were the young families, the men who had returned from the war. These people had lived through the Great Depression and known poverty and like you can't imagine today. They also had seen humanity at its worst in the war. So it was very easy to tell them, you deserve this. You shouldn't have to struggle anymore. You shouldn't have to work all day baking the bread. You should go buy it at the grocery store. And so all of that kind of stuff caught on very quickly. You should not have to struggle and scrub clothes. You should get some money and buy an automatic washer, right? And so we had the greatest generation now being the generation that would become part of the greatest changing or trend in our history. We have another one, and I will try to remember to share that with you because it's my opinion. But anyway, So this is what happened. And all at once, they were in control of our food system. And every year, something else came along. You can do this, you can have this, you can use this chemical, you can use this new kind of seed, and you will have greater yield. So I think if I were there at that time making this, I probably would have jumped on that wagon too. I mean, it was just, you know, it wasn't like these were bad people. It just was that period of time. So in any situation, when you are thinking about should we change it? Why should we change it? How can we change it? You always go back and look at that history. And that would be looking at that period of time from 1945 well into the 60s, even early 70s. And then what happened? What prompted people to start thinking differently about it? It was the next generation, the crazy kids who dropped out and turned on and did all those kinds of things. And it wasn't so much that they thought this was better or they wanted this or they were altruistic. Their rule was, or the mentality was, if my parents are doing it, it's bad and I want to do something different. So if my parents go to church, I don't go to church. If my parents obey the rules, I don't obey the rules. If my parents have martinis and a big thick steak out on the patio, now called the deck, then I don't want that. I don't eat red meat. I'm going to drink jug wine instead of having a martini. And so as much as people of my age kind of don't like what happened to certain institutions, I can say the one place these people were right was to challenge the food system, and they did, and that was the first rumblings of organic farming and so forth. And some of them decided they wanted to go out and work the land and grow their own food and these kinds of things. So that's how the next kind of change happened. So where does that leave us now in our timeline here, or whatever? We know we made a big mistake, absolutely. In our own Ohio, we recently had what I think should be the greatest wake-up call. About 400,000 people around Toledo had no water for about 3 days. No. Why? Because of what was going on with Western Lake Erie. And there are many contributing factors there, I'm sure. I'm sure those who spray chemicals on their lawns because they want it to be perfect and don't ever want to see a weed, yes, there's some runoff from that. And other things. And maybe this system is old and needs to be changed. That's possible. But the real cause is what is happening in industrial agriculture. And if you've ever been to Western Ohio, it is acres and acres and acres of row cropping. And what is row cropping? Corn, soybeans, corn and soybeans. And we don't do crop rotation much anymore in that system. We put more fertilizer and get bigger equipment and so forth. But the runoff from that kind of farming is terrible. And despite what they might think, water still does run down, right? And so it's going to go down a little more, then into that ditch, down into that little stream, and then into a river, and eventually it's going to go to Lake Erie. And yet, we can't get those who do it to admit that this is what happened. Along with all of that industrially produced corn and soybean and so forth, you have animals. They were going to eat a lot of that. And so are we, because we're going to have corn syrup and so many things, and soy and so many things. But the big thing is animal feed. Because if your animals are not out in nature eating grass or doing whatever, you've got to give them all the feed. So it's very efficient. They'll produce more milk, they'll get fatter sooner, and so forth. So the animals are all confined. And we actually call this confined animal feeding operations, CAFO. Now, this is kind of the even more unpleasant part of it. One cow, dairy cow, great big Holstein cow, in a confinement dairy produces waste equivalent to 18 people. So if you have 100 cows, you have 1,800 people. So can you imagine 200 and 700 and 1,000, and translate that? A town, a city of that size, oh, we don't need a sewage system. No, we don't need it. You know, well, that's the problem. And so we have two things. First, it's the chemicals used in the production of crops, but the second is the horrific system of animal confinement. And that's just something that it's just, we really should think about this morally, I guess. It shouldn't be. But we also have still one more problem. We have become very accustomed and very comfortable in having food 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in every place imaginable. You're always ready to get some food. It's there. The checkout counter at Staples. Oh yeah, I forgot I want to get something for lunch today, so I'll take a pack of candy bars or something. You know, it's like we have all this. It's produced so cheaply that we can mass produce food products, not food products. And many of us are guilty of it. We're like, oh, I'm so busy, I worked all day and this and that and so forth. Okay, and we fall off the wagon, so to speak, and go to the drive-through window. You know, and it's touchy, and it's, you know, maybe not to say something like this so boldly, but you know, I think I'll get out of Hudson okay tonight. But anyway, I always tell this story. It's not a true story. I kind of made it up, but I think it could be true. That, you know, the mother and the three kids hop in the gas guzzler, and they go to the mall or wherever to shop. They don't need anything, but they just want to shop. So somebody gets the T-shirt that's yarn dyed and pre-shrunk. Oh yeah. And somebody else gets a pair of shorts that are equivalent to like maybe 2 handkerchiefs in amount of cloth. And so everybody's happy, and they got their bags that say, you know, American Eagle or something on it, and they get back in the car and they head home, and then, oh, what do we have for dinner? I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm hungry. Well, you know, mother says, oh, okay. So they go to the drive-through window. And everybody gets a bag of, and so that's dinner. So when we talk about, oh, we really have to restore the American dinner table, this Amish friend of mine said, I think for some people, first they're going to have to make sure they have a table. Because the dashboard might really be the dinner table, and the console here, you know. So, yeah. So here's the bag, you know, and often no one's going to wait until, at least wait till you get home, and then we sit down and you can have yours, and, you know, at least we'll be eating together. Oh, no. We just eat in the car. And we'll be finished by the time we get home. So you think of that. Buying the T-shirt or the sneakers, we want to know, you know, what's this? Yarn dyed, pre-shrunk, where was it made? Oh, I don't buy that because I heard they have child labor there or something. Okay, so we know all about this before we make that purchase, because after all, it's going to go on our bodies, right? Meanwhile, when we get the bag at the drive-through, this is going to go inside. We don't have much idea of what this is all about. But I like it because it has the 3 things to which I am addicted. And what are those? Salt, sugar, and fat. So no problem whatsoever. So what can we do now? What can we do now that we've the door's been opened, our eyes are hopefully been opened, and we know this is going on. And we know that these things are happening. So how do we wean ourselves away from it, or how do we opt out? Because it is not easy. It is not easy. It's no different than an addiction. You don't just say, well, Monday morning, it's all over. I'm not going to do that anymore. By afternoon, you say, I'll just have one cigarette. And so you go out and, cigarette, whatever. Well, to achieve any goal or to make any kind of change, you need a plan, right? You can't just be, I'm going to do better. Well, how? And what is your one-year plan, your 5-year plan, your whatever? And so families have to talk about this together. It can't be dictatorial. I mean, you can't just say, okay, from now on, kids, no more this, this, this. That's not going to go over too well, right? So it's by talking together about it and starting simply. Say, okay, I'm going to buy whole foods. I'm going to buy carrots. I'm going to buy, meat, this, and I'm going to make the food from scratch, as we say. And I'm going to tell everybody, now, dinner is going to be at this time, and everybody has to be home. Now, the problem will be, well, I have this, I have that, I'm in 17 activities. Okay, there's nothing wrong with having dinner at 7:30 or 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Pretend you're in Spain. Have it at 10 o'clock, you can do that. And tell the kids, that why we're doing this. So you can have a snack at 3 o'clock or whenever kids, and they get home so early, I don't know, 2:30, 3 or something like that. So you can have a snack maybe, but dinner is not going to be until later. And make some rules by getting everybody involved. Say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say no phone calls, okay? And no television. We'll just go that far, all right? Then extend that. Say, now there can't be this and this and this. And finally, it's like, start choosing the topics about which you're going to talk at the table. Not like what happened at school and I got up angry and I hate that kid and my teacher's terrible. No negative. Say, let's talk about things. And eventually bring that to food and ask them about food history and come to the library and find some books about it. The author Michael Pollan is good for everyone. I mean, and if your kids are younger, read aloud. Yes, a new concept. We will read aloud to the children, not watch the flat screen. That could be interesting. So having a plan is very important. And then a little more and a little more. And then remind everyone in your family, like, we do not have to have meat or poultry or fish at every meal. We'll have it sometimes, but not all the time. And eventually make it special. The Sunday dinner. Or maybe the Saturday night when you're cooking out of doors or something like that. And then, why is it special? Because it's kind of expensive, and I think it's better for us to have high quality, safe, nutrient-dense meat once a week than to have industrial meat every single day of the week. And those are two important words in our vocabulary. Empty calories and nutrient-dense. Nutrient-dense means that this little bit of food is so full of nutrition, but this volume has almost nothing in it except calories. And if you don't if you don't think that's true, I suggest you read The End of Overeating, in which a doctor talks about the amount of time and experimentation, the trials, etc., that food producers, things like this. Here's our product. Okay, everybody take a bite. How many times do you have to chew before you can swallow this? And if somebody says, well, about 12. Okay, we have a problem. It must come apart with just a ready to go. Because you will eat faster and you will eat more. Okay? So that is an actual experiment that is done on new products. Why do we have Big Gulp and 16 ounces and these things? Why? Because we want to sell more soda. But, well, why can't you just have regular size, and if you want more, go get one? No. Because there's something about, if you have to go get another one, it's like, oh, you're having more. But if you got the 16 ounces all at once, no problem. There you go. Absolutely. And that might be one of the things that you could do to really have a discussion about soft drinks. I mean, if you could eliminate those from your refrigerator, from your family, that would be a giant step. Because basically, you're drinking, corn syrup, sugary water with some kind of flavor. It's just really, really sad. And you can get along well without it. You can. I've got, I think, around 45 years with never having a soft drink. I never touch this stuff. In fact, I don't think I ever have. Very seldom I would ever have processed food. Maybe if I'm at someone's dinner or if I'm at a meeting or so, I might. And I never stop on the interstate. That's like, remember Charlie on the MTA or something? It's like, you're on it, you're stuck, kids, and this is all you can get for food. Every time there's an interchange, you go, this, right? So you take your lunch. Take your lunch. I think that would be, absolutely. Because no matter what you decide to do, the change will come when you do it. The government will not change it for you. The school will not change it for you. Any group, the advocates for real food, will not change it for you. You will change it. Only you can change it. Yeah, you are more powerful than you might think. You are the agent of change. So those are my suggestions for what you can do in your family. And then you go out away from your home. And another place you might want to go is your school cafeteria. And here again, not to be unkind to those who work there and who do that work, because it is good work, and they're doing it. But they have no or very, very little control over the food that is served. They are under the control of the USDA. Now, the USDA, think about them. The present secretary of the USDA, Tom Vilsack, used to be CEO, president, chief, whatever, of the Corn Growers Association. So do you think he wants to change this corn syrup? No, I don't think so. But anyway, the USDA subsidizes a great deal of industrial agriculture. So they're not going to, and the Farm Bureau has plenty of money and good lobbyists, as do the pork producers, the corn growers, the Poultry Association, the Cattlemen's Association. They all have money, lots of it. Do you know that every time a farmer sells a steer for beef, a hog, for example, they must pay a small fee to the association. So every time you sell that hog, you're going to pay the pork producers. Yes. And so they have tons of money, tons. Okay. So they're not going to change. They're not going to help the people of Toledo. Well, then we have the other end of it, the other end of this USDA. What program is it that they manage? And if you can think, like, why would they be managing the food stamp, the welfare program? That comes from the USDA. So they want to get all that stuff onto those grocery shelves, all that orange drink and grape drink and heat and eat, microwave pizza, hungry man meals, etc. They want it because that's how they can use all these products that industrial agriculture produces. And so you go to that end and say, why don't we stop something over there? Well, then you're going to have people say, you're dictating what people are allowed to eat, and that's not good. So they've sort of got us, trapped all along the way. So that brings us back to, it really is you and what you do. And if you can get to a point of having this kind of dialogue and in your family and increase till you have a pretty good system going of good food in your home and good meals and good family communication, etc. The next thing you could do is tell your neighbor about it. Invite, tell your children to bring a friend for dinner so that they can see and ask, and tell your child, say, during the dinner, explain to your friend why we eat this way. Right? I mean, you are the person who has the power. Like Nancy Reagan once said, just say no. So it is to that too. And so here we are today, and despite all this doom and gloom, we are doing a great job. And we have producers who are doing great jobs. And just quickly, let me bring it around to talk about some of the successes from 30 years ago when people laughed at me. Now they laugh at me for other reasons. So anyway, instead of having a red tomato or a kind of oval-shaped tomato, we can have hundreds of kinds of tomatoes. Instead of having one kind of pork, the industrial, we can have 5, 6, 7 different breeds of hogs. Each has its specialty. This one is great for bacon. This is great for ham. This is great for pork chops, etc. We can have different kinds of beef. Poultry, not just one plain old tired kind of chicken. No, we can have 1, 2, 3, 4 kinds of chicken from which to choose. And we do. And so in our vocabulary now, we have many new words that we didn't use 30 years ago. Heirloom tomatoes, heritage breeds, pasture raised, grass finished, all of these words. And each one says something. It tells us that this is how our food is produced. And this is the vocabulary you want to make sure is used at your dinner table, particularly with your families. Now, again, you are the agent of change. You can do it. No one else is going to do it for you. And Gandhi said, you must become the change you seek for the world. And I think that sums it up very well, that you're the one. You do it. And hopefully many people will do it. And now I did remember that I said, after the Second World War was the great, one of the greatest, if not the, in modern history, periods of change, almost kind of revolution, but not in a bad way. And the next one, or has there been one yet? Do you think there'll be another one with great change like that? I read this a couple weeks ago, and I liked reading it. Do you ever have a thought, something you think about, and you say, oh, yeah. And then you read something, a newspaper article or a position paper, and the author says this. You love that somebody said what you had already thought. You say, that is one of the great joys of reading. I think that next period of great transition, of great change, is right now. And I think that it is in the group of young adults who are coming out of schools now and coming out into the world. And I speak from what I've seen. I live in the inner city, and my neighborhood in the last 5 years has absolutely changed dramatically, and it's just filling with young people. And many of them don't have cars. And they ride bicycles. And they are doing businesses, their own business in their home or things of this nature. They don't seem to have baggage. They're not fighting against a group. They're not angry at someone. They're not trying to hurt anyone. Whereas the boomers, as we remember, they wanted to take on the whole world, the government, and so forth. And these young people say, I'm just going to do my best, and I'm going to do what I like, and I'm going to make my living, and I'm going to be a good person, and that's that. And so I think we are in a great, great period of change. I probably won't be around to see the finale, but I'm enjoying the process now that's going on. So remember and take away this, that you must become the change you seek for the world. Thank you. And there is time if you have a question, if you have a comment, you're welcome to ask or to share or to question or to tell me you thought this was pretty crazy. Yes, please, over here.
You have a couple minutes on how the fresh pork market works, like say, I know it might be, and where the pickup in Hudson is?
I think that in a couple minutes I will ask my boss to talk about that because he will explain it all. I will simply say it is a wonderful program, and I thought I knew a lot about cooking, a lot about food, and so forth. But I have learned and grown a great deal over the last 4 or 5 years because I have had products that I probably wouldn't have chosen. And so the question was to know about Fresh Fork Market. And Trevor Clatterbuck is here, and he will be available to speak to that, and maybe he could speak to an entire group. And I'm pretty sure there is a pickup place in Hudson.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
St. Mary's Church.
There, St. Mary's Church. Good place. And yes?
Excluding the Hudson Farmers Market, because that is the best.
Yeah.
What is your favorite farmers market?
Oh, boy. I don't go to farmers markets much anymore because of Fresh Fork and because I garden. But in the city, I think that there's a market in Tremont that is near where I live, and that's pretty good. I think in terms of product and variety and so forth, the Shaker Market is that it's a very pricey farmers market. I think that there's some good in every farmers market. The great challenge is how can the farmers make money? And sometimes there just isn't the customer base, the volume for their making money. But if there is a farmers market, you should go. Just do it. Just do it. And bring home something and say, wow, I'm going to make this tonight. And at the dinner table, you say, this came from a farmer at the market. And the farm is this place. And he said that if we ever wanted to come to the farm, we could visit. And there's nothing like visiting farms. That's a great idea. Yes, please.
What are your thoughts on the grocery store selling produce and, they now have signs from such and such farm?
Oh, okay.
Is that, I don't know, is that?
The question is, how about grocery stores that are now selling products and identifying the farm or farms from which these products came? I think that's a great idea. And I think it points out what I said earlier, that first there's resistance, and then they make rules, try to keep the guys out, and then finally they say, well, we're going to do it too. And I think my grocery store near where I live, I went there a few weeks ago and to get something. Well, I don't do too much grocery store food. And when I was there, I saw this truck, or a small truck, and the man was bringing big cases of sweet corn and taking it into the store. So I thought, wow. So I watched and followed, and I said, excuse me, are you delivering this? He said, yes. I said, where is it from? And he told me. And I said, oh, wonderful. And I bought some corn. I would never otherwise buy corn in the grocery store, but I did, and it was really quite good. He said, it was picked this morning. So it can happen, and we are. The foot is in the door. It's happening. I know that Heinen's grocery store, I don't know, it won't be in all locations, but a couple of them very soon will be selling Ohio lamb, and it is very good. Ohio lamb is outstanding. Very good, very good, very good. Question? Any other? Okay, then I will be here if you would like to speak to me about anything else. And pardon? Oh yes, and now you're going to have an opportunity to taste some food. This is all food that I prepared all day long. No, it is all food that, yes, I did prepare it, but all the products came from Fresh Fork Market, and you will have heirloom tomatoes. You will have pasture-raised chicken. You will have bread that was made in Holmes County using all whole grain. There are two things that I think are kind of interesting. They're just little tasting things. One is an eggplant mousse, and it'll be warm, and I think you'll find that it's a wonderful way to do eggplant. And the other is a cucumber mousse, and that is chilled because it's gelatin, and I think you'll find that is a nice little thing if you wanted to make some hors d'oeuvres. And we have some sweet red peppers and some corn crackers that were made in Athens at the Shagbark Hickory operation there, and a very favorite soup, squash, acorn and butternut squash roasted, and then all the pulp is taken out, and then bacon from hogs from Ohio farms, of course, and that is sauteed and sauteed and sauteed, and then onions are cooked in it, and then the squash is put in it, and some chicken stock, and so forth and so forth. And I think you'll find it's just a rich and deep flavored. Pardon? Oh, and the chicken will be in a sandwich. So there will be some chicken, heirloom tomato, and lettuce from a hydroponic operation that's actually in the city of Cleveland, and mayonnaise. But it's not Hellman's. I made the mayonnaise. It's egg yolks and sunflower seed oil, and the sunflower seed oil is from right on the border of Medina and Wayne counties, and that it's a wonderful product. One more question, yes?
Are you including recipes tonight?
Am I what?
Are you including recipes tonight?
Oh, I hadn't, but if you Kathy would like, I probably could write these recipes and send them to you, and you could put them on the library's website or something. I don't know if,
I'm not sure if we can do that or not, but I can certainly print some out and.
okay, I will try to do this, but some of these recipes are, and if you personally want one, and really, really, really want it, you could contact me, and I would somehow explain it to you.
Are you still doing cooking classes?
Classes?
Are you doing cooking classes?
The only that I do right now is I work with Fresh Fork Market, and we do some wonderful classes in the Cleveland area, and you go to the website and so forth, and you can see what these are. I think we have one coming up. The next is in October 15th, I think. 14th, I'm sorry. And that is, I think that they called it Cabbage Crazy or something. And it's going to be an entire dinner and lesson about using cabbage and the many, many, many ways you can use cabbage, an underused, underappreciated vegetable. Yeah. So if there's something you really want, you speak to me after, and I'll give you an email, and I'll try to communicate with you. Again, thank you so much.